Turn one soul ring.
Yes, sir.
Let's just start the show. And then the sound effect comes in. Welcome to Turn One Soul Ring. That's the sound a Soul Ring makes when you tap it for mana.
So wouldn't it be really crazy, like, if in the game of Magic, whenever you tapped something, it made a sound? That would just... Oh, boy.
Well, what is Arena like? Does it make noises when you do stuff?
When creatures attack and like when you play, like when you cast a spell,
Okay.
it'll do stuff.
There's this little chime sounds when you tap lands, right? When the mana goes into your mana pool, It's like sing, sing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
Like, in Hearthstone, when you're at the beginning of your turn, when your mana crystals refresh, it's like swing, 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 up to the top.
It's a lot of swinging.
Yeah, what's this just swing?
For your listening pleasure.
Yeah, just fun sounds with the boys.
Yeah. Anyways,
I'm Kevin.
Hey, I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today on the show, we'll be starting our review of Kaldheim. And it is also our first set review of 2021. And I got to say, I'm much more excited for this set review than I was for Theros Beyond Death, which was our first set review of 2020. And I believe you were on that episode. Were you not, Riley?
Yep.
Yeah. Or that series of episodes. I don't think we did it. We don't try to do it in one anymore, or they would be several hours long. So as usual, we're going to be going through our favorite cards in Wooburg order, wrapping things up with gold, colorless, and lands cards. So we're not going to go through every card, just the cards that are of interest to us. But before we get to any of the cards, Eric, how can listeners get in touch with us?
People can find us on Instagram at Turn One Soul Ring the podcast. If you want to message us directly, hit us up. We have an email, turnonsoulringthepodcast at gmail.com. And then on YouTube, we put everything up there. Find us the best way, typing in Turn One Soul Ring the podcast. And then also, if you really like what we do, we actually have a Patreon. So you can always go check out our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/turn1soulring.
Yes, and if you listen to our last episode, our episode 100, we did a live deck build, and we're giving that deck away. So if you want to find out the details for that giveaway, go back and listen to the whole episode. But the details are at the last little bit of the episode. And if you haven't entered yet, we haven't had a ton of entries. So if you enter now, your chances are still pretty good. But I digress. We're going to go through. Today we're going to go through our favorite white and blue cards from this set, and if we have time, we'll tackle black as well. But without any further delay, let's get to our first white card.
Caw!
That's right. It is Battlefield Raptor. It's 1 white for a 1/2 bird. It has flying and first strike. So I was sort of thinking about this card more for limited. I don't know if I see it anywhere else. It's a cheap creature with 2 evasive keyword abilities, and in this set there are also a fair amount of both equipment and aura cards that you could strap onto this, especially equipments, and just start swinging for the fences with this card. Like I think this is especially that 2 power. I think it really gives it that extra boost. I could really see picking up a couple of these in a draft and doing some equipment aura stuff and really being happy with it.
Obviously with the 2 toughness, it's really hard to kill this thing, and for only 1 mana, it's a good rate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Next up, we have Bound in Gold. It's 2 and a white for an enchantment aura. Enchant permanent. Enchanted permanent can't attack, block, or crew vehicles, and its activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So this pretty much covers everything.
It's really nice that it hits permanents just right across the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you could hit a land that has a pesky activated ability, and then it would still be able to tap for mana. So yeah, just the flexibility of it being a permanent is really great.
Yeah, someone has a Crawling Barrens, you can Bound and Gold it.
Ooh, yeah, get that.
That's mean.
Yeah, that has to be a pretty sad board state if you're hitting Crawling Barrens with that.
This is a nice option, like budget option, I should say, for Commander. If you're looking for a nice little removal spell. I mean, obviously there's other options in white, but if you're getting into the format of Commander, it's definitely gonna be cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and it really does cover everything, even crewing vehicles. Even though that's not very prevalent in Commander, and even in the draft format of this set, it's not even that prevalent. But they still threw it on there, which I like.
Yeah, like there are some vehicles, and it's like this is also really
Yeah.
cool because maybe your opponent's vehicle is causing you trouble. You can actually just put this on the vehicle instead of like one of the creatures or something. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, there is the I've been playing a few drafts, and I have seen a number of Funeral Longboats being cast. That's the 2-mana 3/3 vehicle that crews for 1.
yeah, like, that's really good.
Yeah, you want that. That's
Yeah.
right where you want a crew cost.
Yeah, oh, and it's got vigilance as well, so just in case.
Yeah. Solve all your problems.
There you go.
We have Clarion Spirit next. It's 1 and a white for a 2/2 spirit. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. There's a few of this cast your second spell each turn in this set. Is there not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in black and white.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like casting a second spell, you get a 1/1 spirit. That's good value.
Hey, you got a
Especially
skull
limited.
clamp kicking around?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like so where do you guys see this card seeing play besides limited, of course?
Well, depending on how standard shakes out, like I mean, it's a pretty good triggered ability for just gumming up the board and making like relatively key threats in 1/1 flyers, right?
Yeah.
Like a 1/1 flyer. I mean, obviously, like when I see this, I think of something like Young Pyromancer, but of course, Young Pyromancer, the strength there is it triggers off every instant and sorcery.
Yeah.
But this also looks at each turn. It doesn't look at just your turn. So if you have like a kind of cantrippy instant speed deck, like you could probably get a lot of value out of this little 2/2.
Yeah, and I think as soon as you get at least if you can get 2 tokens out of this, you're pretty happy with it.
Beyond even just getting the 1 token because it's like a 2/2 for 2, so it's like it's all right playing it just out. So
yeah, for
once
some
you get that 1 spirit, you're
for doing doing something you're going to do anyway. Next up, we have Divine Gambit. It's 2 white for a sorcery. Exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment an opponent controls. That player may put a permanent card from their hand onto the battlefield. I think when I see cards like this, I always focus on the last part, the part that is a potential disadvantage or a potential advantage for my opponent. But it's sort of like show and tell, where you just you've built your deck in a way that you can take advantage of this, and your opponent isn't expecting this, and they're probably not going to have an impactful permanent to put on the battlefield. Sometimes they will, but a lot of times they won't. So I think it's just I'm just mentioning that because that's something that's someplace that I make a mistake, and I think it is I think it is a mistake, and I think it is something that should be considered a lot more carefully.
Yeah, like sure we're getting rid of something. It's just it's so dangerous with something like this where if your opponent does have that like 6 or 7 drop in hand, it's like, well, that feels bad.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, this is 2 white. We need 2 white at sorcery speed.
Yeah.
Why?
Ooh, next up we have Doomscar. It's 3 white for sorcery. Destroy all creatures, and it also has Foretell for 1 white. So this is our first Foretell card of our set review, and Foretell is a new mechanic in this set, and it reads: during your turn, you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its Foretell cost. So when it comes to cast, because creatures can have Foretell, sorceries like various card types have Foretell. If you cast it, I guess what I'm asking is if it's an instant that you've foretold, can you cast it at instant speed? And like Doomscar, for example, can you only cast it at sorcery speed?
Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
tied
it's
down to all
still-
those regulations.
Okay, because you're still casting
Yeah.
the card. You're just casting it for an alternate cost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On a
so-
later turn.
Right. So I mean, I love foretell in a lot of, there are some cards that if you foretell them, you are paying like the lower rarity cards, you are paying the same cost if you foretell it or if you hard cast it. And with this card, you're also having that effect. But some cards, and we'll probably talk about them in this episode or future episodes, you can sort of get a mana reduction by casting it over a couple of turns if you foretell it. But this is kind of nuts. This is a 3 mana Wrath. Like, you can cast this on turn 3 if you foretell it on turn 2, or in Commander if you're able to foretell it on turn 1 if you get a turn 1 Soul Ring, right? Hashtag turn 1 Soul Ring the podcast. But yeah, this is kind of this is a very good Wrath.
I agree.
Yeah, this Wrath is nuts.
Yeah.
But foretell is at least from the experience I've had with playing with the mechanic for a couple days, in draft particularly, the nice thing about the mechanic is it does make your mana very efficient, because it helps to fill in those little gaps here and there whenever you would have a turn that would otherwise be relatively mana inefficient. So like even worst case scenario, if you have to play this as a 5 mana Wrath, like that's still kind of the standard rate that we see today.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, just setting up in the early development of the game, just foretelling this and having to pull the trigger on turn 3 is incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's and you just said it best, Riley. The efficiency with which foretell allows you to use your mana is what I love about it. Yeah, it's just I think it's just a fantastic mechanic. So moving on to Glorious Protector. It's 2 white for a 3/4 creature angel cleric. It has flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile any number of non-angel creatures you control until Glorious Protector leaves the battlefield, and it has foretell for 2 and a white. They printed quite a few efficiently costed angels in this set.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and
angels
like
are kick ass.
And this card, I think, is like pretty dang good. If you have a way of blinking it yourself, obviously, you can do some really fun shenanigans with it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in a way, like I love how it is the Glorious Protector, because if some of your stuff is being targeted, we can just flash this in and then like fizzle that spell. And then when the Protector leaves the battlefield, we get those cards back. So no matter what, we will be getting those cards back.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Really, really strong card, I feel.
Oh, yeah, totally. No, yeah, a great protection spell. Yeah, all around.
Yeah, and you're still getting in there for 3 in the air too, right? So can't complain.
Right, and when a creature has flash and an evasive ability like flying, it does kind of give it pseudo haste. So you are going to get in there for 3 damage exactly.
Yeah, good at killing planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Halvar, God of Battle, and this is our first MDFC card. Modal double faced. Yeah. Did I do that right?
Yeah. You got it.
I gotta check. I'm bad with acronyms. Or yeah, it's acronyms. So Halvar, God of Battle is 2 white for a 4/4 legendary creature god. Creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike. At the beginning of each combat, you may attach target aura or equipment attached to a creature you control to target creature you control. That's nice. You get to move stuff around. And the flip side is Sword of the Realms. It's 1 and a white for a legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has vigilance. Whenever equipped creature dies, return it to its owner's hand, and the equip cost is 1 and a white.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a lot.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah. Halvar is dope. Like, Not only is Sword of the Realms just like a kick-ass piece of equipment,
Mm-hmm.
but Halvar himself, like if you're looking to build like mono white equipments in Commander, this could be a fun option. Obviously, like SRAM and Balon are out there as well, so that you could always fit into the 99 there. But just the idea of being able to cast Sword of the Realms from your command zone and start equipping and making your creatures a little extra resilient is pretty kick-ass. And then, of course, being able to swap around ores in equipment with Halvar is just a nice little cherry on top.
Yeah, and that's what's so these are very unique cards. We've never seen anything like this. We have we have Halvar as our commander in our command zone, but we can also cast the flip side from our command zone. So, it's almost like, I always think of commander as, the start of the game, you draw 7 cards, but you have 8 cards or 9 cards if you have a partner commander in your command zone. And now with these flip legendary creatures, it's also like you have that extra card in your command zone. So these do give you a sort of, not necessarily card advantage, but they give you more flexibility on what you want to do at that point when you want to cast either side of it. So yeah, I can't I don't really have any of these that I really want to build around yet, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing them on the battlefield, whether I'm piloting them or not.
Yeah. And another interesting thing with these modal double face cards in Kaldheim is a lot of them tend to be like gods, and tend to work really well with their own respective flip side.
Mm-hmm.
So like in standard, usually when you're running a legendary creature in standard, like you're not necessarily wanting to jam a full playset just because of the legendary rule.
Yeah, they'll get stuck in your hand.
Yeah. But with like Halvar and the other gods in particular, they seem to synergize for the most part really well with their other flip side. So, if you already have Halvar down on the battlefield and then you draw a second Halvar, then you can cast it as Sword of the Realms and just start beating face. So I really like that design.
Yeah, I have to agree. That's really, really cool. And then, of course, if we do have the Sword of the Realms, just its ability bringing back your Halvar if he dies somehow is so good. But also just crazy to think of, like, Halvar with his own sword on him is going to be swinging for 12 damage. Whew.
Oh, yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, it's a thick boy.
Yeah.
At least on the front end. Next up, we have Rally the Ranks. It's 1 and a white for an enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. So this is obviously great in tribal decks that have white, but like white has so many good anthem effects that just affect all your creatures. I can't help but feeling like this is kind of a worse version of those kind of cards like Crusade or Honor of the Pure. What do you guys think?
Well, if you're already doing like a tribal deck, Rally the Ranks, the nice part about this card is the CMC.
Exactly.
That's what I think.
It's easy to splash.
Yeah. So that's what
true.
I think is good about this card is the CMC for just what it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of those anthem effects can be double white.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's it's efficient and it's redundant, right? Like if you're already running some anthem effects in your commander deck, this might be one to consider slotting in as well, just for some extra redundancy. And like if you're already playing a soldier deck or already playing a warriors deck, like you might as well slot in an anthem that works well with that tribal.
Yeah, then you might as well go for a soda,
Exactly.
Yeah. Next up, we have Redane, God of the Worthy. It's 2 and a white for a legendary creature god, 2/3 with flying and vigilance. Snow lands your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. Non-creature spells your opponents cast with converted mana cost 4 or greater cost 2 more to cast. And this is it's a god, so it's a flip card. The flip side is Valkmira Protector Shield. It's 3 and a white for a legendary artifact. If a source an opponent controls would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent 1 of that damage. Whenever you or another permanent you control become the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1. Nothing specific to this card, just that these flip commander cards that we're seeing now in this set, I think we're going to see a lot more like inner sleeved cards like this in top loaders, and like that's your commander. I remember when I first got into Commander, and there was a lot more of that. People who had much more ceremony around their commander, and like that's very much changed in my experience. But I think we're going to see a lot more. I think we're going to see a lot more top loaders or like special transparent sleeves when things open back up again. But who knows? Let's talk about this God of Worthy here.
Well, I mean, if you don't like people playing Snowlands just as free rolls, then I mean there's just that incidental hate for Snowlands. But that second static ability, the non-creature spells your opponents control, making them or the CMC 4 or more, cost 2 or more greater to cast. That's pretty taxing. Yeah, especially later in the game.
Yeah, and it also hits board wipes. It kind of makes me think of Gaddock Teague, like a diet Gaddock Teague.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the flip side, the Protector Shield. I know in Limited, this is freaking ridiculous. I don't know how you would possibly beat this, short of having a Broken Wings or a Disenchant in your disposal. But just reducing the damage dealt by 1 to everything, like not just yourself, because I've seen instances of like protecting yourself from 1 extra damage. But like protecting your creatures from 1 extra damage is pretty effective. It kind of swings combat in your favor, just because now like if you've got a 4/4 or sorry like a 5/5 and your opponent has 2 3/3s and you swing in, their 3/3s are only going to be doing 2 damage each, so 4 damage to the 5/5. So whereas before they would have been able to take it out and only exchange 1 for 1.
And even in this format, I feel like this draft format, this is really good because I think like you do have a lot of like creatures and double blocking and stuff happens a lot, and so this is definitely very powerful in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have Resplendent Marshal next. It's 1 and 2 white for a 3/3 creature angel warrior with flying. When it enters the battlefield or dies, you may exile another creature card from your graveyard. When you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control other than Resplendent Marshal that shares a creature type with the exiled card. I think this is going to see standard play.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bit funky, but you got to build the deck around it. So if you're doing like, angels and warriors or something, I think that's when it's really going to shine.
Yeah. I could easily see an angels deck coming into standard for a while. At least for a little bit while people are experimenting, and then they realize that Throne of Eldraine is still the most powerful set created in like the past 2 years, so they go back to just using specifically Throne of Eldraine cards. But yeah, this is pretty fun.
We have Righteous Valkyrie next. It's 2 and a white for a 2/4 creature angel cleric with flying. Whenever another angel or cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, and as long as you have at least 7 life more than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2. What is Serra Ascendant? What is the clause on that to give it plus
10 more?
10 more?
30 life.
Do you have 30 life?
30. Okay. Oh, it just says 30 life.
Yeah.
Because in Commander, you just get it right away.
You're right. You just get it right away, which isn't really a huge threat if you really do the math. But this is another efficiently costed angel. It's got a big butt. It's in in your angel decks in Commander. This is going to gain you a lot of life. Angels often have a high toughness, a high cost, but a high toughness, much like Sphinxes.
It does stack really well with multiple copies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh God.
Very well.
Very, very well.
And there's even a in standard, there's been like a cleric deck that I've been playing with, but then there is also like a creature. If you have a certain amount of life total, you tap them, you get a 4/4 angel token. Like combining that with this card now, I think there's like a really strong position for like a angel cleric deck to maybe pop up with life gain.
Yeah, and I really like the templating they're going for in a lot of these cards. A lot of the cards that care about a tribe is going to care about both tribes that the creature has.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of giant wizard, angel cleric kind of stuff going on. So it's really nice because not only is it a kick-ass angel for an angel deck, but it's also a kick-ass cleric for a cleric deck.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's not too many player feel bads to have in this set. It's hard to feel bad though when you have modal double face cards though.
It really is.
It really is. We have Rune of Sustenance next, our first rune card. This is a new card type. It's 1 and a white for an enchantment or a rune. You enchant a permanent, and when Rune of Sustenance enters the battlefield, draw a card. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it has lifelink. As long as enchanted permanent is an equipment, it has equipped creature has lifelink. So like we were just saying about avoiding player feel bads, this does get around the risk of playing auras, especially in limited, a lot more because you can enchant an equipment which gets removed a lot less often than creatures. If you played any amount of limited, you know that it's a very creature focused format, and the removal is often creature focused, and that's why auras can be risky.
For sure. But it is like extra nice that it cantrips on itself too, right? So
Yeah,
of course there's still the opportunity to get blown out by removal in response, but another big traditional risk of running an aura, if you're enchanting a creature, of course you're investing that extra card into that creature, so just that extra little cantrip gives you a little bit more fuel to work with.
Yeah, and this I really like the design of this card and the flavor behind it. It being a rune, runes being just like, some sort of like stone object or something. You could be a human like carrying it and you get its like boon, but also like just in the photo here, like attaching it to like a shield or a sword or something, how we see happens in like games and stuff like that. This is really, really well built in terms of like what a rune does. I really, really like the flavor just behind how the card actually works in Magic.
Well, I think this is definitely going to get our flavor win of the episode. We're going to have to see if it gets flavor win of the set, but it's always up for debate when we do these reviews.
For sure. But yeah,
Kevin, would you run this in your SRAM deck?
Well, I would. It's got the right cost. It's got the 1 and a white. There is a lot of generic mana production in that deck, so I don't like to run too many white mana pips. If you have SRAM on the battlefield, it draws you 2 cards. That's what's nice about SRAM. It does sort of negate that, what you were saying about the 2-for-1 with auras. Lifelink isn't great, but that being said, it is a Voltron deck, and so it really is you against the rest of the table. So that lifelink can come in handy for sure. But just equip an equipment if you need to, and you still get that double card draw. So yeah, I think I would, because that is a very this whole cycle is great, and like the other there are I'm not more desirable abilities on the other aura runes, but yeah, I definitely pull up the deck and Deckstats and see if I could find a place for it.
Right arm.
So we have Runeforge Champion next. It's 2 and a white for a 2/3 creature dwarf warrior. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a rune card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. You may pay 1 rather than pay the mana cost of rune spells you cast. I don't know if there are enough rune spells in existence to make me wanna use this card. I like the tutor effect, but the mana reduction effect I don't know is really getting me there with this card.
Yeah, there's 5 runes
Yeah.
currently.
Yeah, there's one for each color.
Right.
So
Yeah. But, it's a nice payoff in limited.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. If you
Yeah.
and if you have if you have
It's all right.
if you have a couple of runes in your deck and you can go and search one up, and then let's say it's turn 4, you cast this, you search one up, you cast the rune for 1 for whatever the colored mana cost is, like draw a card, get that effect. Not that you have to put it, you can put it on another creature that you have. I could see that like that's a good turn 4 in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also checks your graveyard as well, so it's a nice little fail case scenario.
Yeah, that is nice. Yeah, again, like another little thing that just avoids the feel bads. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it the abilities that it does is great. I just don't think the runes are good enough. Like, I definitely went against somebody, they cast this, I was like, ooh, oh no, and still just steamrolled them.
And like I had the Tatiova Voltron deck for a while there, and this is the kind of card that would make me reconsider building that kind of style of deck, because I think the runes would be great with Tatiova.
Oh, yeah.
Because her passives are giving her +1/+1 for each enchantment, and then of course this cost reduction, the double cantrip, essentially like triggering the first off of Tatiova and the enter the battlefield of the rune. So yeah, I'd run this in a Tatiova build and run the 3 runes in each color.
Yeah, the Bant.
Cool.
The Bant
Not bad.
runes.
All right.
Okay, now for real this time, we've made it to Search for Glory. It's 2 and a white for a snow sorcery. Search your library for a snow permanent card, a legendary card, or a saga card. Reveal it. Put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. You gain 1 life for each snow mana spent to cast this spell.
This is a pretty dang good tutor, I think.
Yeah, it really is, because it is really flexible, and you can always just go and get a snow land if you want to. But I was thinking about it in Commander. We run a fair bit of legendary creatures in our decks, legendary permanents, and like sagas aren't as prevalent, but you can also get that too, and the life gain is just a cherry on top. But I think there's quite a few legendary cards that you would want to tutor up, whether they're legendary artifacts or lands. And just putting that into your hand, for 3 mana, I think that's like you said, Eric, I think it's pretty darn good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then if you're doing like White Devotion, you can use this to tutor up Nykthos. Like, sure, gimme.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, it takes a little bit of deck building considerations, but not much to make this worth playing as a tutor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have Sigrid, God Favored, next. It's 1 white for a 2/2 legendary creature, human warrior with flash, first strike, protection from god creatures, and when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target attacking or blocking creature until Sigrid leaves the battlefield.
Again, first strike on a flash creature is pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is pretty effective at messing up some combats.
just a little bit.
Just a good body with a good enter the battlefield effect, and obviously, in its worst case scenario, you can just play it on your opponent's end step and have a 2/2 first strike, and then maybe have an equipment nearby that you can attach to and make it into a notable threat. But I just like the versatility of Sigrid.
Oh yeah, and obviously the dream is someone's attacking, and then you can play this, exile one of its attacking creatures, and then block something else, and just kill a 3/2 or something because you're a 2/2 at first strike. Ooh, that feels good.
Yeah, never alone, never afraid.
Yep.
Well, he's God Favored. That's why. We have Spectral Steel next. It's 1 and a white for an enchantment aura, enchants a creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and you can pay 1 and a white to exile it from your graveyard. Return another target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. That really takes this card over the top, that you can kind of recycle it in that way.
It's a really good ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, like
you like auras? You like
go.
this card.
Yeah. Obviously, we're going to buff a creature, but it's like the being able to just bring back anything from your graveyard, like graveyard recursion on top of buffing a creature at some point. I think this card is straight value. Like, I really like it.
We have Starnheim Unleashed next. It's 2 white for sorcery. Create a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. If this spell was foretold, create X of those creatures instead, and the foretold cost is XX and white.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a little expensive, but obviously, like, limited bomb for sure. But yeah, that's really where I see this card to really pay off. I guess, like, in standard, I could see some people playing this card as well. If the game does go a little bit late, like, 7 mana, we're getting 3 4/4s. That's nothing to shy about. So,
yeah, I mean, 4/4s with vigilance are a real threat.
And flying,
right, they have vigilance too, of course. Right, why not?
It's an angel thing.
Yeah,
yeah,
just angel things.
We have Usher of the Fallen next. It's 1 white for a 2/1 creature spirit warrior. It has boast, so this is our first boast card of the set review. The boast cost is 1 and a white to create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. And boast, the way boast works is you can activate this ability only if this creature attacked this turn and only once each turn. There is a red card that lets you activate boast abilities twice. But otherwise, you can only do it once each turn, and only if the creature attacked this turn.
This turn.
So, I think Riley had sent a message in our text chain when this card was spoiled, and he mentioned that this would be good in White Weenie, and like it would. This is perfect for that deck. I was sort of thinking I was sort of thinking of putting it in. Like White Weenie Canlander. I have a deck that I've been toying with, and this would be perfect for that deck. It's a 1 mana 2/1, so already it's perfect. But the boast ability, the boast ability is just fantastic, and the very little Canlander that I've played. Much like draft, it does get to a point where you're just top decking, and having an ability like this that you can use for doing something you're going to be doing anyway, like attacking, is just great to have that mana sink. Not really a mana sink because you can only do it once, but it's just nice to get to use the mana that you have because you don't have any more cards to put more bodies on the battlefield so that you can attempt to end the game.
Well, like, let me put it to you this way. Okay, so turn 1, play Usher of the Fallen. It's a 2/1. Turn 2, you swing in, then you cast a Elvish Visionary, a 1/1 that draws you a card. That's kind of what this is. Like,
yeah,
you're basically getting an Elvish Visionary when you boast with this creature. Obviously, that's gonna not necessarily be a huge threat in the long game, but for White Weenie, like, just having that ability of being able to be mana efficient at any point in the curve, really, and still pressure your opponent like straight from turn 1 is, I think, really, really strong.
Yeah. That's the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, because then if they're trading their like 2 mana 2/2 with your 1 mana 2/1 that you've already made a 1/1 token off of. Life's good.
Life is good. And just to be clear with boast, like any time after the creature has attacked, you can do it. So you can do it in your second main phase. You can do it as soon as you declare the creature as an attacker. It's not like I know combat for me is something that I still have to, get clarification on sometimes. But as soon as this is declared as an attacker, you can activate the boast ability and get that 1/1. So it's not like you're if you have the mana, you're at least gonna get that 1/1 after you declare Usher of the Fallen as an attacker. It's not like you're going to attack and then if they block, you're going to lose this and not have an opportunity to do it. Just to make that clear. So next up, we have Valkyrie's Sword. It's 1 and a white for an artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 4 and a white. If you do, create a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. It's an angel thing. Then attach Valkyrie's Sword to it. Equipped creature gets +2/+1, and the equip cost is 3. So that's 7 mana for a 6/5 flying vigilance angel. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad. This one is a little on the expensive end of this cycle, but overall, like, I'm a big fan of this cycle. It reminds me a lot of Living Weapon.
Right, yeah, the germs.
Yeah. Yeah, but the living weapon you get in this case is an actual threat, like a base 4/4.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty fantastic. Weak to bounce spells, because I found that out. I played a sealed game with a friend of mine, and he cast Valkyrie's Sword, invested 7 mana in the sword, and then sure enough, I spent 1 mana on a previously foretold bounce spell and just bounced the angel to his hand. So that was a risk, but overall, like, the other colors have their own respective equipment, and there's some in there like the Draugur's Helm, for example, in black that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah. Also, Aaron Miller, I like it. This art, just like the coloration with the curves and stuff going on, and then the antiquity stuff on the like armor and the sword and stuff. I really like this card. I think it's beautiful.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, the art is pretty
beautiful.
stunning. Yeah.
All right, shall we move on to blue?
I like blue.
I like
raisins.
I'm not a smart man, but I like blue. Right, so moving on to blue here, our first blue card is Alrund, God of the Cosmos. It's a flip card, so the God side is 3 blue for a 1/1 legendary god. It gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand and each foretold card you own in exile. At the beginning of your end step, choose a card type, then reveal the top 2 cards of your library. Put all cards of the chosen type in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And the flip side is Haka, Whispering Raven. It's 1 and a blue for a 2/3 legendary bird with flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, return it to its owner's hand, then scry 2. Too bad that's not a mail ability, because a 2 mana 2/3 with flying is a very good rate.
Bird.
Yeah. I have the same feeling on that one, Kevin. Just that I really wish it was a main ability.
You don't always want to do it.
Yeah. Like, I don't mind not scrying 2 to just have the 2/3 sit there.
Yeah, it's a 2/3. It's a real threat. You put an Aura Rune on there, and you're going to town.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, you can play it as a 2/3 flyer, then just sit back for a few turns as a little defender. Then on turn 5, when you're ready to cast Alrund, you just swing in, scry 2, set up your top 2 cards, play Alrund, then activate his ability at the beginning of your end step, and hopefully get some nice card advantage out of that.
Oh, absolutely. The 2 sides of this card work really, really well together.
Super well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a recurring theme.
It is. Most of them are like most of them are like that. Yeah. Not all of them, but most of them are.
Yeah, and I really like how it does get +1/+1 for the foretold cards as well. I think that's a really cool and unique thing just to add on there.
Yeah, because we've seen cards that get +1/+1 for the cards in your hand many, many, many times before. But this is just an extra little boost and something that just a little bit more of a buff, right? You're not relying on that one zone which is nice. Just a little something extra.
Yeah, I think a really good blue-white deck is going to come out of this, and it's not going to have Teferi.
Ooh,
Nice.
nice.
That'll show them. Our next blue card is Alrund's Epiphany. It's 5 blue for a sorcery. Create 2 1/1 blue bird creature tokens with flying. Take an extra turn after this one. Exile Alrund's Epiphany, as all extra turn spells. Well, I thought they would always say it, but then we got Nexus of Fate. That was a long time ago, though. I shouldn't be. That's triggering to people. So it also has Foretell, which is 4 and 2 blue. So you guys know I kind of have a proclivity towards extra turn spells, and most of them are just take an extra turn, exile it. All the more modern ones are take an extra turn, exile it. Some of them say shuffle it into your deck. But I've definitely been in situations where I've cast an extra turn spell so I could effectively play an extra land. Like I used it as a 5 or 6 mana ramp spell, or like miracling Temporal Mastery. And
on turn 2,
and as bad as and as bad as that feels, it would have made
you're still getting value.
Yeah, of course, but it would have.
How are you supposed to ramp his blue?
Yeah, right.
Take an extra turn.
It would have made things feel a bit better if I would have gotten a couple of creature tokens out of it. So, again with this set, I think this is just a feel good set because they're giving us an extra turn spell, which is reasonably cost for where we are in Magic. They're not going to give us 4 mana, just destroy all creatures anymore. Doomscar notwithstanding. We got Shatter the Sky, but there's still a little something extra on that. It's not just to destroy all creatures. They're not going to give us 5 mana extra turn spells, but this is really nice, especially because you can foretell it and because you get a couple of creature tokens that you can defend yourself with or attack with, whatever you want to do. But I just really like the versatility of this card and that it's not just an extra turn spell, and I'm definitely going to try and slot this into Narset.
Sweet.
Makes sense.
It's a good card.
Next up, we have, I think, the first reprint we've talked about in this set review. It's Annul. It's 1 blue for an instant. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell.
Yeah, being able to counter things for just 1 blue mana is always pretty dang good. So, and then with some of the, like we already saw, one of the gods flip side, it is like an artifact and stuff. I just think like this may be pretty relevant in standard sideboards, and at 1 blue, like it's just so good.
And there's a ton of sagas now running around.
Yes,
right,
exactly.
Like the bind the old gods or whatever it is. It's the Golgari one that destroys a non-land permanent. Like that's seeing a little bit of play right now. So even just being able to efficiently counter a saga. Elspeth Conquers Death. That's another good one.
Ooh, yeah.
That would feel good.
Yeah, you want to X amount thing? Annul.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and who knows, like what we're gonna, I think sometimes we see these sideboard cards printed in sets because this is clearly, in limited, I don't even know if this is a sideboard card. I don't think you're gonna put it in your main deck, but I don't even know how often you're gonna board it in. But I think this may be a ghost of things to come of standard, where we may see a more artifact or enchantment heavy metagame going forward into 2021. We'll have to see what happens, but that's sort of just my feeling based on the cards in this set and that they put Annul into this set. Also, the points that you guys made about sagas are definitely relevant. But anyways. Yeah, the good card, good reprint. A 1 mana counter spell always feels good.
Always, no exceptions.
Unless it's 0, that feels better. Next up, we have Ascendant Spirit. It's 1 blue for a snow creature spirit. It's a 1/1, and it has 3 activated abilities. The first one is you pay 2 snow mana. Ascendant Spirit becomes a spirit warrior with base power and toughness 2/3. You can pay 3 snow mana. If Ascendant Spirit is a warrior, put a flying counter on it, and it becomes a spirit warrior angel with base power and toughness 4/4. And lastly, you can pay 4 mana, snow mana. If Ascendant Spirit is an angel, put 2 1/1 counters on it, and it gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Yep.
So I really want to like this card. It reminds us, of what is it? The hybrid Boros
Figure of
Kithkin
Destiny.
card.
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm saying? Yes, yeah. It's sort of in that wheelhouse, and the decks that I would want to. Not the decks that I'd want to put this in, but it immediately made me think of like Edric or Flying Men. But it's too much of a mana investment in the early game to get it to the point of a 1/1 evasive creature, or in this case a 4/4 evasive creature that costs effectively 6 mana at that point once you've gotten there. And in the late game, I don't think it's that impactful. Just in the decks that I would want to put it in, the decks that I mentioned, but. Where do you guys see a place for this card in any deck, in any format?
I just like it may see a little bit of standard play. I don't think it's going to be like a mainstay, because if you sink like 6 mana into this and then it dies, that does kind of suck. And it is only a 4/4. But I do like how we were talking about the Kithkin, and then how this one, when you pay the 3 mana, you put a flying counter on it instead of it just gaining flying.
Yeah.
I like how they did that from what they've started doing
With Ikoria. They started that with the
yeah.
keyword ability counters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So super cool.
Yeah, it does seem like a really fun card, but I just I don't know.
I could see playing this in a deck. Remember the mono blue tempo deck?
Yes,
from,
with
Yeah.
Tempest Djinn. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I could see you piloting this style of deck where you basically play this out turn 1, just protect it, leave up mana to protect it, and if they don't try to kill it that turn, you sink your mana into its abilities to start upgrading it. And notably, the last ability does stack with itself, so you can over time, if you're pumping 4 mana
I never
into it
noticed
every
that.
turn.
Yeah.
The card draw ability stacks
Yeah,
with
if you
itself.
can keep it, that can really that can really do work.
Dang.
Yeah, I like
it.
I said, I really like this card.
Dang.
I just and I would love to play with it, but yeah, I'm worried I'm not going to get the chance.
and of course, compared to something like the
There's
Boros
always a
one we were
chance.
talking about, being in blue, we do have counter spells, so it's a lot easier to protect this creature and keep it around.
Yeah. Anyways, very cool card. I like when they do this. I like the level up mechanic. I like that that you can sink mana into a creature and make it better all on its own. I like when they do that. But yeah, I just they never seem to be that good in a vacuum. But anyways, let's move on to Behold the Multiverse. It's 3 and a blue for an instant, scry 2, then draw 2 cards. And if that wasn't enough, it has Foretell for 1 and a blue. So I really like this card just for the 4 mana at instant to scry 2 and then draw 2 cards. It didn't even need to have Foretell. That just makes it way better.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like Glimmer of Genius, but you can make it more mana efficient if you want to.
Yeah, totally.
Going back to our Ikoria set review, where you brought back cycling in that set, and how cycling just makes everything better. I feel like Foretell just makes everything better.
Yeah. Foretell just makes everything a little bit more mana efficient. It gives you a little bit of flexibility. You can fill in your curve where you need it to. And casting this for 4 mana, like you said, is not a bad deal at all. Especially since it's instant speed. So if it really comes down to it, you could foretell it on your turn, then on your opponent's turn, cast it for its foretell cost, and you're still spending 4 mana. Like, there's no downside here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and like keeping up that instead of having to like either choose to cast a spell or cast a counter spell, being able to like foretell for the 2, still keeping up a counter, and then countering or doing this still. If you counter, then this is still in lingo, and it's only going to cost you 2 mana when you decide to play it. So that's so good.
Yeah, no, it's just a nice way to fill in the gaps wherever those gaps are on your curve. But it's also a common. I think that's a really fun part about it too.
Yeah.
So it's already seeing some play in like Pauper Delver.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, like super cool card.
Yeah, and whenever they create a mechanic like this that just makes things like makes the mana more efficient, it is very prolific among formats because it's something that every player wants. Next up, we have Bind the Monster. 1 blue for an enchantment aura enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. It deals damage to you equal to its power. Oof. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step.
So blue always has this ability with cards that we always see come around. And obviously you're usually paying more mana. So the 1 mana sure is nice, but I think this can still be kind of dangerous because, we want to shut down, my opponent's like 6/6. You're taking 6 damage.
Yeah, I think the best time to play this is, ideally if you haven't been attacked by that creature yet, right? If you've already been attacked once, you're taking that. It's like you're taking that second attack.
Yeah,
but it is very, very efficient. I feel like with every set we get the blue aura removal spells.
Yep.
It's like just give us Imprisoned in the Moon every time. Come on.
every time.
Yeah, every time.
Why can't it just change the name? Change the name. Make it flavorful, but I want Imprisoned in the Moon.
Bind the monster to the moon.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you know what? While we're at it, give it to us in green. I want Song of the Dryads every set. But yeah, this could be dicey, but it is 1 mana. It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it's a good trade-off.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Cosima, God of the Voyage. It's 2 and a blue for a legendary creature god. It's 2/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile Cosima. If you do, it gains whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control. If Cosima is exiled, you may put a voyage counter on it. If you don't, return Cosima to the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it and draw X cards, where X is the number of voyage counters on it. Whew. Okay, and there's a flip side. It is the Omen Keel. It's 1 and a blue for a legendary artifact vehicle. It's a 3/3. Whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards from the top of their library. You may play lands from among those cards as long as they remain exile, and it has the very special crew cost of 1. Love that crew cost of 1. Ooh, it's good.
Ooh, yeah. I really like this card.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big fan of vehicles, and so just getting a nice, good vehicle, like I would totally cast the vehicle side a lot of the time. I just think it's really good.
Yeah.
Like we're getting to ramp off of our own opponent's deck. Not ramp, but like make sure you hit your land drops.
Yeah, and if you think about Commander, ramp if you have cards that let you play extra lands, of course. Which everybody, I recently had to go over. I didn't have to, but I recently went over my decks and Deckstats, and I created a new category because I had been putting those, like burgeoning or like Wayward Swordtooth or exploration. I was putting those in ramp, and they're not ramp. So don't cut that out, guys, because that's not ramp.
Yeah, they're only as good as the number of cards in your hand.
That's right. You said it, Riley. But I was going to say that in Commander, if let's say this is your Commander and you're casting it, or it's just in your deck, whatever, like 35 to 40% of, well, it's probably like 30 to 35 now, of your deck of anybody's deck is lands. So like that's the chance you have of hitting lands, and it's it is deal combat damage to a player. It'd be nice if it was just attack. But you're going to hit, and if you can buff this, you have a much better chance of hitting lands. Like, yeah, I really like this card for that. And those cards just, they remain exiled unless they have some way of getting them back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like if I was gonna play this in a lands matter commander deck, I think I would cast Cosima herself, because we already have all the other land stuff, and we're going to be getting to draw extra cards, which is really sweet. But I think in limited, I really like the Omen Keel, and also standard. I like that side of it.
I mean, I like the creature face of it being like essentially like landfall in exile that draws you cards. Sure, you have to wait a few turns, but that's a huge payoff. You get a thick creature and a thick hand of cards. Like, yeah, I'm a big fan of Cosima.
And is there anything more fun than drawing cards?
No.
Maybe take an extra.
No. I feel like drawing cards.
Because other people hate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like that doesn't feel
card
good.
draw is just good, clean fun.
But we were just saying what's fun for you, not everybody else.
I'm a very empathetic person, Eric.
You are. I think, you know what, Riley? I think you're the most empathetic person here. And I think I'm the least. So next up, we have Cosmos Charger. It's 3 and a blue for a 3/3 creature horse spirit. It has flash and flying. It's a horse with flying. Foretelling cards from your hand cost 1 less and can be done on any player's turn. And it has foretell for 2 and a blue. This is a very interesting card.
Really interesting card. Really good card. Yeah, I want to foretell stuff for only 1.
Yeah, that's crazy. This is good. This I haven't I've looked at the new cards from the new the Kaldheim commander decks, but they must have put this one in the Azorius one. That'd just be crazy not to. That'd be a slap in the face, right, Riley?
And sometimes with like the foretelling already making like the cards cost maybe 1 less, you also get 1 less if you do have the Cosmos Charger out as well. That's just really good.
Oh yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, it just makes an efficient mechanic even more efficient.
Yes.
Like I said, it's a feel-good set. Next up, we have Cyclone Summoner. It's 5 blue for a 7/7 creature giant wizard. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, return all permanents to their owner's hands except for giants, wizards, and lands. So, I'm thinking about slotting this into a zombie. I haven't done any of the homework yet, but this is just fantastic. Even in not a wizard or giant centric deck, this is a great board wipe for 7 mana.
I do have to say, like, my biggest beef with this card is the fact that it says permanents and then has the exception of lands. Like, they could have just said return all non-land permanents to their hands except for giants and wizards.
Yeah, that's bad templating. Yeah, you're right. Well, anyways, I think in those tribes, this is gonna be a great board wipe, and it only costs. What is doesn't Overloaded Cyclonic Rift cost 7?
Yep.
Yeah, so boom. There you go.
Boom. This is an instant though, so.
Oh yeah, you're right. But maybe if I have Leyline of Anticipation, does that work? We have Giant's Amulet next. It's 1 blue for an artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 and a blue. If you do, create a 4/4 blue giant wizard creature token, then attach Giant's Amulet to it. Equipped creature gets +0/+1 and this creature has hexproof as long as it's untapped, and the equip cost is 2.
It's really good.
Yeah, like obviously we're getting a little bit better rate in terms of what the creature's body is,
right,
from the angel one, and the equip cost is only 2.
5 mana for a 4/5 giant with hexproof as long as it's untapped. I would play that in limited. And it's also a nice little flexible card. Like I would even see this as like a budget option in Commander.
Yeah, because like if you're not really tapping something all that often, it just has like an Anthem effect or something. Just being able to equip it, it has hexproof now. It's not bad.
It's funny that I don't know if it's funny. But it's just kind of I think unusual is the word that we're getting like giant wizards as a creature type. I know that this set is not as tribal as I think a lot of us thought it was going to be when it was first spoiled. We first saw those first few cards and like giant wizards kind of, because we think of wizards and they're more, they're playing the mental game, right? So they're not going out, they're not lifting, they don't lift, bro. So they're not giants. But like Eric, it kind of makes me think of the, like this set kind of reminds me a lot of like Keld, like that we talked about in our Bloodline series, where I think that this is because like that's a very like Norse type of place on Dominaria, and this is a whole different plane. But I think this is like the Keld centric set that we never got. But the giant wizards make me think of like the Witch Kings that Gatha created. So if you haven't listened to that and you want to hear about some giant wizards, go back and listen to that stuff.
But usually, like wizards have powerful magic, but they kind of have like a frail body sometimes because they're not trying to do anything.
Yeah.
But a giant wizard, that's just some scary shit.
No kidding. Yeah, they don't even need to use magic. They can just crush you.
Yeah.
We have Glimpse the Cosmos next. It's 1 and a blue for a sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And as long as you control a giant, you may cast Glimpse of the Cosmos from your graveyard by paying 1 rather than paying its mana cost. If you cast it this way and it would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. It'd be nice if that didn't have that last little clause on it, but I think it'd be a little broken. I think it'd be a little broken at that point.
A little, yeah.
Just a little?
Yeah, just continues to cast and anticipate for 1 mana.
I got a giant. It's probably a wizard.
Exactly. Yeah, Glimpse of Cosmos is good. I've played it, and Anticipate is nothing special, but that flashback makes this card worth building around.
Yeah, totally. Like you can just play this card with not having any giants because it's still like a good, blue card. But having the bonus of being able to flashback it is really good.
I mean, on its face, it's just a sorcery speed Anticipate, and like that's. Yeah. I don't think that's particularly good, but that flashback, gives you an extra card out of the deal.
Yes.
Yeah, and blue likes to set themselves up.
Mm-hmm. And especially in Limited, because I know in my experience, Limited can often feel like a singleton format. And so, like getting to reuse a card is very powerful, especially a card that gives you pseudo card advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of card advantage, we have Gravenlore. It's 3 blue for a snow instant. I'm not really sure why it's a snow instant because it doesn't cost snow mana, but we've got a bit of that in the set. It's Scry X, where X is the amount of snow mana spent to cast the spell, then draw 3 cards.
A really strong card draw effect. It's nice instant speed.
So just on its face, I think that 5 mana for an instant speed, draw 3 cards is pretty good. And yeah, any instant speed card draw spell I like. I would love it if Harmonize was instant speed, but it's just not. Maybe we'll get one. I don't know with the way power creep is going. But if you can, if I was thinking about this more in terms of Commander. I have several monocolored decks, and in most of them I run snow lens and an extraplanar lens, and this is just icing on the cake. So if this just gives you the ability, like let's say you're scrying 4 or 5, that's magical Christmas land, it just gives you a much better chance to draw the 3 cards that you need in that scenario. But like I said, I think just 5 mana to draw 3 cards is at instant speed, of course, is really nice. I don't know if I'm gonna play with this card in Commander. I probably won't, but a lot like Ascendant Spirit. I don't know. I like it. I'm not, I don't really know why.
Card reminds me of Ugin's Insight.
What was that? What was Ugin's Insight?
You scry X, Ugin's Insight. You scry X for like the greatest power of creatures, and then you draw 3 cards.
Yeah, I kind of like that. Well, I kind of like that better, but I guess this.
You can get more scry value out of it, obviously.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, because this tops out at 5.
5.
But like those cards that let you scry or draw cards based on the number of creatures or the power of creatures, are, I think, a little more risky as opposed to things that have to do with this, like lands, which are much more sticky permanents. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But I think, I think in the world of Commander, I'd probably want to run Ugin's Insight more than this. But it is instant speed. I really like instant speed card draw spells.
I think I like Graven Lord better than Ugin's Insight. Like, obviously, if you have the mana base to support it, I'd take the sure thing of scry 5, draw 3 than the maybe draw or scry whatever your power is.
Maybe I'll scry 8.
0.
Maybe I'll scry 1.
Yeah. Yeah, but even in monocolored decks with snowlands,
Exactly.
Let's say you're running like 20 basics, like there are still situations like, if on turn 5, like you don't, maybe you have one snowland, you don't always have, maybe that's just me though. Maybe I'm running too many utility lands. I know you can run more in a monocolored deck, but maybe I'm abusing that. I don't know.
You're abusing that privilege.
You guys should probably like have an intervention and come over and like look at my deck list and just like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing?
Well, actually, like with my first monocolor deck that we did on this show, actually, I have since like played it a little bit, and I have taken out some cards and put in more
Basics
snow swamps.
Oh,
because I was like, there's not enough.
yeah.
I want to have more to get the bonus off of extra planar lens.
Yeah. Oh man, extra planar lens. What a great card. I think the first deck I put that into was my Memnarch deck. I was just like, it's like, why does this deck, like, I was researching Memnarch and all the deck lists had like snowlands in them. I'm like, why do they have snowlands? I'm like, oh, it's a 3 mana artifact that doubles your mana and doesn't affect anybody else. And still you go out there and it's very, very little snow. I mean, not that I've been out there in basically a year at this point. None of us have, but I don't want to get sad, so let's not talk about that.
But now you got to be careful because we have snowland hate.
The tables
That's
might
right.
flip.
We do.
Might have to go back to regular basics.
Next up, we have Icebind Pillar. It's 2 and a blue for a snow artifact, and it has an activated ability. You pay a snow, tap it, tap target artifact or creature. So this is like a snowy, icy manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This card's great.
Yep. Great. If you have a little bit of snow support in your limited deck, you should play Icebind Pillar because it is a good card.
Yes.
Next up, we have Icebreaker Kraken. It costs 10 blue for an 8/8 snow creature Kraken. It costs 1 less to cast for each snow land you control. When it enters the battlefield, artifacts and creatures target opponent controls don't untap during that player's next untap step. Return 3 snow lands you control to their owner's hand. Return Icebreaker Kraken to its owner's hand. So, the art on this card is great, especially because the guy's name is Chris Cold.
Cold. Yeah, last name Cold.
But what a great last. I kind of want to change my. I mean, I know Smith is a good last name, but Cold. That's that's like Mr. It's like Mr. Freeze. But, anyways, what do you guys think? This because I remember when this card was spoiled, and I remember thinking, what is this card like? What format is this card for? Like, where do you guys see this?
Standard.
I mean, like,
Matt, you got 6 snowlands. We're playing this for 6 mana, and it's an 8/8.
yeah, It's fine. I guess it's a resilient threat.
I pay 6 for an 8/8.
Yeah,
I would really like it. I would.
Would you
know,
play 3 for a 6/6 death touch?
Would I pay?
What's that
would
one?
I pay 3? Yeah, I would.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I would.
Egon, God of Death.
Oh, right.
But like one thing is the Icebreaker Kraken, even though it locks down your opponent's artifacts and creatures, it doesn't tap them down.
I know. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big problem for me.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're playing a sea monster deck in Commander, I feel like this is a fun include. Just get some snow basics in there and have fun. But like, I don't know if this is gonna be that great in Standard.
Yeah, I think this
That's
is
fair.
just a big dummy. It is nice that you can bounce it back to your hand, but then to get the reduction, you have to then play those lands again.
Replay those lands.
I mean, in its favor, it doesn't. It's gonna be really hard to exile with Ugin.
It's a good against Ugin
Yes,
threat.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
anti-Ugin threat, but it can be chump blocked for days. So
Yeah, give it an evasive ability or something.
yeah, like Island
Yeah.
Walk, or even better yet,
Anything. anything.
give
yeah,
it
like that would've
Island
been good.
Home. Island Home. They should bring that mechanic back.
Or you know what? Let's do like a snow walk, right? Because it's an icebreaker.
Oh, there you
Kraken,
go.
So if you control a snow land, it's unblockable.
Yeah.
That would have been nice.
Yeah. One last thing. If you need an icebreaker with the ladies, don't forget about the icebreaker
come
Kraken.
Oh yeah.
No.
Anyway.
Just like you show that it's foiled, they're like, "Is that a Pringle in your pocket? Are you happy to see me?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "No, it's a magic card."
And
Yeah,
it's
you're not gonna
foiled.
untap.
Yes. Okay. So next up we have Inga Rune Eyes. It's 3 and a blue for a 3/3 legendary creature, human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, scry 3, and when it dies, draw 3 cards. If 3 or more creatures died this turn. So it's a solid 4 mana 3/3. You get to scry 3. That's pretty big. That's you're digging. And in Commander, oftentimes when there's a board wipe, you're going to get to draw those 3 cards.
Mm-hmm. It's like delayed gratification.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice little it's insurance for board wipes.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be nice if we could get like board wipe insurance before we sat down to a game?
Yeah.
Maybe that's something we should incorporate into the league as like you can
No.
you can pay points to get board wipe insurance. I don't know what the payout is going to be for that insurance.
Oh my god.
But it's like I'm going to pay 3 points to get like wrath insurance.
Oh man.
Trevor's going to love it. I think he's going to love it. Anything that makes it more complicated, he likes it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is not bad. I'm not not that he listens to the show, but I just don't want him to feel attacked.
We'd have to get rid of the bottom feeder rule.
Yeah, we would, cuz those are at cross purposes. We would.
Yeah.
Bottom feeder. Yeah, that's good. That's a much better name for it. What do we call it? The bottom grazer rule? Bottom feeders.
Bottom grazer.
But bottom feeder.
Oh, it was bottom grazer.
Bottom feeder is much more insulting.
Oh man.
So next up we have Mystic Reflection. It's 1 and a blue for an instant. Choose target non-legendary creature. The next time 1 or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature, and it has foretell for a blue. This card is really versatile.
Yeah.
It's you can use it effectively to counter a creature or planeswalker spell. They did that a lot with this set. Like they threw planeswalker in there. By somebody casts like a big bomb creature and you want to target a little dinky, hopefully like a 1/1 token, and that creature comes into the battlefield as a token. But and I was thinking about like when I saw this card, I immediately thought of like Brutaclad, how he like at the beginning of combat he turns your tokens into a copy of a creature, and although with Brutaclad, you wouldn't want to copy. Does Brutaclad say non-legendary? I mean, you don't want to copy a non-legendary. You don't want to choose a non-legendary or a legendary rather, because they would
He cares about tokens turning into different copies of tokens.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, you could use this if you're generating tokens. So like, you could target some beefy non-legendary creature, and if you're making a bunch of tokens and they're going to enter the battlefield, you use Mystic Reflection, and boom, you got a bunch of beefy 4/4 flying vigilance angels or whatever.
You got a bunch of mere Battlesphere.
Exactly. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, this card is
That seems pretty
it's just
good.
so cool, and they give it for Told. Come on.
It works really well with Master of Waves or Avenger of Zendikar. Those are a couple interactions that I've seen, but basically, like, you play Master of Waves, with its trigger on the stack, you cast Mystic Reflection. Then the elementals that are coming into play off Master of Waves, counting your devotion to blue, they're going to come in as Master of Waves, and then they're going to each count your devotion to blue, which is going to be exponentially greater. And then
Holy smokes.
they're going to create a bunch of elementals, and then they're all going to get pumped up by your team of Master of Waves.
Yeah, and that would also work well with with Pylath, the World Shaper.
Yeah, or
as
Avenger
well,
of
'cause it's
Zendikar.
very similar to Avengers
Yeah.
Zendikar, just not as good.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
really
very
good
cool card.
exponential threats.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do like the fail case of turning your opponent's creature or planeswalker into a nice dork.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially with Planeswalker. Someone's playing some big bomb Planeswalker. You're like, that's a soldier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just- your Ugin is a soldier now.
Yeah, deal with that.
Just seems more funny than it actually just getting straight up countered.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it is funny.
yeah.
We have Orvar the All Form next. It's 3 and a blue for a 3/3 legendary creature shapeshifter. It has Changeling. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets one or more other permanents you control, create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. When a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard this card, create a token that's a copy of target permanent. That's always nice to see. Either just stopping stopping you from discarding cards. Like I think the only other place I've seen that is Tameo. The Tameo from War of the Spark, but which straight up stops it. But
Yeah.
that's just a nice little insurance.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, like, if you want to play this as your commander, you're likely not going to have it sitting in your hand. So that's a little sad. But
Yeah.
there might be an opportunity where you, like, I imagine you'll play a bunch of bounce spells just and some ETB effects, so that, as you cast, like an Into the Royal to bounce a creature with a nice ETB effect back to your hand. In the fail case where somebody goes to wheel your hand away and you want to get some value out of that, you can always bounce Orvar and then discard Orvar and copy something. But, might be some niche scenarios.
Yeah, some fun bounce shenanigans.
We have a Raven form next. It's 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying.
Bird.
And it has foretell for 1 blue. Yes, it's another bird-related card here. And this is just a great removal spell. The best, most efficient blue removal spells. It gives the opponent a little token, and if you foretell this, it is a 1 mana removal spell. Like Pongify or Rapid Hybridization, which have become staples in the Commander format.
I mean, very, like, interesting enough. The biggest thing I'm excited for about Raven form is the fact that it can target an artifact, which is something that you don't see too often in blue, is exiling
Exactly.
artifacts. So
Yeah.
it reminds me a lot of, like, Feed the Swarm back from Zendikar, that could destroy an enchantment in black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really seems like, based on the art, they want us to exile artifacts because it's turning the sword into
sword.
a raven.
A bird.
And I bet, and people that are like, the color pie must be maintained, or just like railing at cards like this, or Feed the Swarm, which I kind of sickly enjoy.
Yeah. There's reasons for it though.
Yeah. Well, because like I think it's also really funny just looking at what this card does, and then earlier in the show we were talking about Divine Gambit, and like Divine Gambit's one less mana, but I still think it's easier to cast the Raven form because it's only one blue, and then your opponent may not get like a big thing out of their hand. It's
Yeah,
like
it's a sure thing. They're going to get a 1/1.
Yeah, and Raven form seems to play out a little bit cleaner than Divine Gambit. Like, mana cost aside, being able to set it up on turn 2 so that at a later turn you can just spend 1 blue mana, like just a blue mana to exile something. Like that's a good use of your resources because you could play on turn 5, play a 4-drop, and then exile something, right?
Yeah,
and
super
Divine
strong.
Gambit's just clunky the whole way through.
Yeah, and it's uncommon, and Raven form is common. I don't. Yep.
We have Reflections of Lityara next. It's 4 and a blue for an enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. This card is just, it is a 5 mana do nothing when it enters the battlefield enchantment, but it's kind of, in Commander, I think this card is kind of dumb. In a good way, of course.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it in any tribal deck that has blue, especially ones that are predominantly blue. If you're not cephalids, I think cephalids just happened with this card. I think that this just I don't even know what category I would put this in. I guess like maybe a new category which would just be redundancy, but
just like synergy.
Just go and look at your tribal decks and if you're not running a ton of legendary creatures, then I think this card has a home there. It's easy to splash in decks that are multiple colors. I just think, and like those creatures that you're copying, they're going to have enter the battlefield effect. Like imagine this in Unesh, right? You get that Unesh is on the battlefield. You have this on the battlefield. You cast a Sphinx. You get that pseudo factor fiction effect. Then you get an additional copy of that creature. You get that additional pseudo factor fiction effect. Like it's just, the turns are going to be so long.
Yeah. It's like a Panharmonicon that just gives you extra creatures.
Yeah, and you just get more bodies on the battlefield, and just more of what you want to do. I think this, I think this card is just going to do a lot of work. It, like I said, it doesn't do anything other than that. It doesn't do anything on its own, and I don't like that. But
that's like any card that is like this.
Like Panharmonicon, right? It doesn't do anything on its own.
I know we've pointed it out in past episodes, but this is a new thing, a new way that we're making tokens, and it's actually making the token on the stack. So you're not creating the token on the battlefield. So the token that's entering is not going to be doubled by any doubling effects. So if you have like a parallel lives kind of effect, it's not going to be doubled when that token enters the battlefield. Just weird interaction, so keep that in mind.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely good to know. Yeah.
Blue Minotaurs.
Yeah. Yeah, Didgeridoo just went up in price a little bit more. Next up, we have Rune of Flight. It's 1 and a blue for an enchantment or a rune. You enchant a permanent. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it has flying. And as long as enchanted permanent is an equipment, it has equipped creature has flying.
Yep.
The runes are cool. And then again, for the flavor wise, like this whole rune cycle, this was me talking about, it's not on like an equipment, right? It's just he or she is wearing it, and that's how we're getting to fly. Mm-hmm. I like the flavor.
I like
but
runes.
You're gonna I like runes.
I like runes.
Okay, our last card today is Saw It Coming. It's 1 blue for an instant, counter target spell, and it has Foretold for 1 and a blue. So this was, this card got spoiled. It was like, oh, it's a 2-mana counter spell, but not really. So what are you guys thinking about this card? Are you thinking it's very predictable? That's the flavor text. No, it's how predictable.
Yeah.
Very
strictly better cancel.
Yep.
There's a lot of those.
I really like it. I really like it because it gives you the benefit of Foretell, which just makes your curve that much more efficient, or I guess like makes your turns that much more efficient by filling in your curve. And at the end of the day, like if you're not countering a threat right away and you've foretold this, like you've basically got counterspell waiting for you. Which is
it's better than counterspell. It's like arcane denial without the downside.
Yeah, exactly. And like
it's like negate, but it hits
exactly.
everything.
And,
yeah,
I mean, if you
that's
get
a better comparison actually.
If you get to that point, like counterspell is a fantastic card, and I think Saw It Coming is not quite at the level of counterspell, of course, but definitely Foretell makes it that much closer.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I obviously really like counterspells, and I love this card. Super good.
Yeah, after drawing cards, Eric's favorite thing is countering spells.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, that is going to bring us to the end of part 1 of our Kaldheim set review. I kind of jumbled that. Review. We'll be back next week to talk about our favorite black, red, and possibly green cards from this set. If there are any cards that you're excited to slot into a deck or two that we've missed, you can let us know in the comments section, or you can DM us on Instagram, or any of the other ways to get in touch with us. Turn One Soul Ring, the podcast, whatever. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week for more of this.
See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Bye now.
Bird.
Turn One Soul Ring.
That's all right. I got my raisins.
I got my
power
raisins up, and then when you're done, you pee in the raisin box.
Yeah. No, we use a mason jar for our raisins, so I pee in the jar.
Just let it marinate.
Yeah.